Water is a defining aspect of life on Earth. In popular culture, we often represent the water with oceans or rivers, common places to build ports, grow cities, and expand human influence. An oft forgotten aquatic biome remains one of my personal favorites, the wetlands. New Jersey is certainly famous for its oceanside attractions, the Jersey Shore, the seaside boardwalks, the beaches overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. However, just a little bit west, New Jersey is home to an incredible array of wetlands, with unique and interesting wildlife. To me, wetlands culture is just as, if not more, important to New Jersey culture, at least where I grew up. If the shore is where tourists spend their time, I'd say the wetlands are where the locals spend theirs. So, let's meet the Pokémon found in the wetlands of the Enjey region. First up is a Pokemon I actually intended to introduce earlier, but reworked into this video. So let's meet Grossling, the Gosling Pokemon. It's a ground and flying type. Despite its small size, it's incredibly obnoxious. It will bite anyone. If you don't already know, Gosling is the word for a baby goose. And if there's one goose to represent New Jersey with, it's gotta be the Canada goose. Despite its Canadian namesake, I'd argue that these funny birds are iconic creatures that have the same sort of attitudes as local New Jersey residents. Heck, I'd argue that I'm probably one of them. The gas station chain Wawa uses a Canada goose in flight as its logo, and its name is an onomatopoeia of the sounds that these geese make. Wah, wah, or something like that. The Canada goslings are truly charming little animals, so incredibly fluffy and cute. You'd be surprised by how much that yellow pattern of theirs camouflages into native grasses. They can seriously blend in while following around their parents. The name Grossling comes from gosling and gross, to refer to both their numerous population and, well, just being kind of gross. We'll elaborate on that in a minute. With some careful care, Grossling evolves into Flockhonk, the rude goose Pokemon. It keeps the ground and flying type. While they may seem fairly beautiful, they're quite territorial. People have been chased by Flockhonk for miles before finally losing them. It's no secret that Canada geese have a bad reputation for being sassy or rude. I mean, I'm certainly playing on that here with Flockhonk's description. However, these animals aren't actually that crazy. Just like other animals, waterfowl like to protect their young, and they can be quite sassy for the sake of their flock. Another aspect of the Canada goose's bad reputation is the fact that they poop. Like, a lot. Since their diet consists almost entirely of fiber, it is no surprise that they poop quite a bit for their size. I remember kids dreading recess in the late spring, if only because we'd have to walk on goose poop in the field. That's why I gave Grossling a name that references being gross, since that's what my childhood memories associate these guys with. Of course, I don't think these guys are gross anymore. Honestly, I think the Canada goose is a very elegant, charismatic bird. Maybe they just don't have as good a reputation as swans, because they don't have a charming fairy tale yet. While I play on the bad reputation in these Pokemon designs, I intend to do so in a lighthearted way. I want to foster an appreciation for these animals, not a disdain. And of course, Flockhonk's name comes from flock and honk, after the famous sound that these guys make. Let's move on to a convergent Pokemon. Meet Flobebe, the algae Pokemon. It's a grass and water type. It resembles Flobebe, but shares very little DNA. It carefully cultivates a clump of algae. This is a Pokemon whose pun was just too good not to use, and whose concept fits so well with the wetlands of Enjey. Like Flobebe come in a variety of colors: blue, red, and gold. These are actually inspired by 3 varieties of algae, particularly green algae, golden brown algae, and red algae. Actually, algae is surprisingly diverse. I was tempted to do more variants, but yeesh, I already had my work cut out for me in this episode. So I stuck to the main 3 types of algae I had studied in my marine biology classes in high school. The design is meant to feel like a mirror to Flobebe, with its held plant making a downward shape instead of an upward one, as well as having droopier features in its design overall. It gives it a nice cute and soggy feel. Flobebe, of course, is a corruption of Flabebe, with Flo, referring to their aquatic home. With some training, you can evolve Flobebe into Floette, the algae Pokemon. It keeps the grass and water type. Floette tends to algae found in the wetlands and the ocean, keeping it colorful and healthy. If its counterpart Floette tends to gardens on land, it's only fitting that Floette should tend to the garden of the sea. Algae. Maybe coral's more visually similar to a garden, but hey, algae is much closer to a plant than coral is. Just like Flowebe, Flowette can carry a flower in red, blue, or gold. The shape of its algae is meant to look nice and flowy, just like kelp. And of course, Flowette plays on the flow pun from before, but also contains the word wet, since, they're a water-type Pokemon. At last, Flowette evolves into Flogis, the algae Pokemon. It maintains the grass and water type. It creates large growths of algae. However, with too many Flogis around, it causes the ecosystem to become out of balance. Flogis is inspired by algae blooms, a phenomenon where a large swath of algae suddenly spawns in unhealthy quantities. This is often caused by things like artificial fertilizers leaking into bodies of water, and it can cause the water to lose much of its oxygen, and become so turbid, so opaque, that it can be hard to see. It's a whole rabbit hole that I won't get into here, but I recommend reading up on algae blooms and being careful about using chemical fertilizers, especially if you live near an ocean, lake, or a bay. Of course, it's perfectly normal for algae blooms to occur once in a while. Only a couple Flogis in the ecosystem keep things in check. It's when there's too much that it becomes a problem. Flogis' design is meant to look floaty and upward, like how Florges' flowers drip down from their weight. So in a way, it's kind of the opposite of Flowebe and the original Florges. Its tail is also meant to look both like a clump of algae, but also a mermaid's tail. And like the others, Flogis' name comes from Florges and flow. The Wetlands may seem like a strange choice to introduce a Pika clone Pokemon, but alas, this is where Enjey's electric rodent lives. Let's meet Kobusagi, the swamp bunny Pokemon. It's an electric and water type. It spends most of its life in the water, able to hold its breath for up to 15 minutes. It electrifies berries it finds in the water to cook them. Kobusagi is inspired by the muskrat, a somewhat elusive aquatic rodent around here. They're commonly called swamp bunnies, especially where my mom grew up, which is why it's called the swamp bunny Pokemon despite not quite being a rabbit. I'm honestly kind of surprised we haven't seen a water-type Pika clone yet, although I've definitely seen other artists approach on a beaver. I thought a muskrat would be a fun, uniquely local take on this concept. Like all Pika clone Pokemon, Kobusagi gets a Japanese name, and I had to give a lot of thought to it since, well, I'm not a native Japanese speaker. Thankfully, I have done a little bit of Japanese learning in Duolingo years ago, so I wasn't totally lost while doing my research. Eventually, I landed on Kobusagi, with Kobu, a seaweed, Usagi to mean rabbit, and the fact that it rhymes with the English word sagi since it lives in the water. I'm pretty happy with it, and I think this little guy came out pretty cute. Let's say hello to Snackly, the rock candy Pokemon. It's a rock and water type. The soft substances on its head are not icing, but instead a sugar-imbued sediment it gathered from living in swamps. I've always been a fan of Pokemon that may look to be one type, but are actually another. My goal with Snackly and its whole family was to make something seemingly fairy-typed, but make them rock and water instead. Why? Well, they're rock candy, or sugar crystals. Rock candy is a pretty popular treat, and it's really quite simple. Just crystallized sugar with some added color and flavoring. I actually grew some of my own rock candy when I was a kid, although I couldn't get it as big as the stuff I found on the boardwalk. Since the original Paldea Snackly line is based on salt, I thought I'd make mine based on another mineral food stuff. This time, sugar. Snackly here is styled like a cupcake, and you'll see more cake influence in the later designs too. Snackly also shows off its cube-shaped head, keeping that aspect to reflect sugar cubes instead of salt crystals. Snackly is a simple pun on snack and knackly. With a little work, Snackly will evolve into Snacklestack, the rock candy Pokemon. It keeps the rock and water type. The sugary substance it leaves in its trail can be used to make healthy scrubs for your skin. The sediment on its body is stylized like chocolate frosting, and now parts of its body look like layers of cake. Of course, it's not actually cake, but instead a stylization of layers of sediment you might find in many rock structures, especially those that have historically had water. I thought adding lots of rounded shapes would be a fun contrast to the original Knacklestack's hard right angles. And of course, it keeps the snack pun in its name. Finally, we can meet Gargasnackle, the rock candy Pokemon. It keeps the rock and water type. Sugary sediment covers its body and protects it from the elements. It has a distinct, sweet smell. Gargasnackle takes the cake elements to the next level, almost literally, looking like a tall, celebratory cake. Its head shows a large, sharp sugar crystal, and the specks on its body even resemble sprinkles. The tips of its finger also look like pastries or desserts that have a buttery crust and a chocolate filling. Of course, that's all just appearances. Despite its sweet smell, Gargasnackle is still just some sugary dirt at its core. I think that's what makes it fun. Like I said, I love Pokemon who have unexpected types compared to their appearance, and this line was a fun exercise in that concept. I mean, rock and water just makes sense. After all, you need water to grow sugar crystals. Still, I like that these guys aren't just charming, but surprising. So I hope that Gargasnackle and its family could find a spot on one of your teams. The next Pokemon is going to be pretty interesting to talk about. It actually has multiple forms. So let's meet Forkasa in its spring form. This is the Spring Shower Pokemon, and it's a flying and water type. It dances in rainy weather, splashing in puddles. It likes to hide and splash unsuspecting hikers. Forkasa is inspired by the Kasa Obake, but you might know it better as that yokai that looks like a parasol with a single eye and a single foot. Since Enjey's neighboring region, Unova, introduced seasons to the Pokemon games, I thought it would be fun to make a Pokemon that plays with the seasonal aspect. So Forkasa here has 4 forms, each inspired by the different seasons. The Spring Shower form of Forkasa is inspired by the saying, "April showers bring May flowers," and its shiny is inspired by flowering trees, cherry blossoms in particular. With that concept explained, let's meet the next form of Forkasa. Next up, we have Forkasa's summer form, the Summer Storm Pokemon. It's a flying and electric type. In this form, it's highly aggressive. They chase tourists off of beaches when angry. It felt a little obvious to make the summer form inspired by the summer heat, but I decided it would be fun to create a design based on the incredible thunderstorms we get during this time of year. Heck, there were actually a few righteous storms by me while I was working on this video. The Summer Storm Forkasa also is inspired by that one meme video of umbrellas flying around on a beach on a particularly windy day, chasing tourists away. I find that quite amusing, and the beach imagery felt appropriate for the Enjey region. As you can see, the various Forkasa change in temperament with each form, just like how the weather can change in so-called personality with the seasons. The third form is Forkasa's autumn form, the Autumn Leaves Pokemon. It's a flying and ghost type. It spends most of its time standing underneath trees, watching the leaves fall. Nobody knows why it does this. I thought a mysterious autumnal form would be a fun way to separate this form from the others. A more muted palette makes it look more quiet, to reflect its contemplative nature. Even its shiny is quite subdued compared to the others, not changing very much at all. It gains the ghost type in this form to reflect the dying leaves and the coldness of autumn. It definitely has the gloomiest vibes out of all the Forkasa forms. The final form of Forkasa is its winter form, the Winter Wind Pokemon. Despite its cold body, it loves being hugged. Some guide people home during storms, but others lead them further astray. Maybe it's my bias for my favorite season, but it felt appropriate to make this form be very cute and affectionate. The Pokédex entry is in reference to many folklore legends about mischievous beings leading people astray, especially when lost out in nature. It also refers to the fickle nature of yokai, spirits, fairies, and other similar creatures. I like the idea that you can never know what to expect from these guys, just like you'd never know what to expect from the weather. By the way, the name Forkasa comes from Kasa Obake, forecast, and 4, referring to the 4 seasons and 4 forms that Forkasa appears in. In the New Jersey wetlands, we actually have carnivorous plants. Some people have no idea, but the poor wet soil around here allows for these unique plants to flourish where others might not. My personal favorite of these plants are sundews, so I had to make a Pokemon with them. Let's meet Stickeef, the Sticky Dew Pokemon. It's a grass type. Its cute appearance and pleasant aroma lure in prey, which gets stuck on its sticky dew. Actually, as you'll see later, this little Pokemon fulfills the niche of a girl boss grass type here in the Enjey region. Of course, most of these Pokemon start out as cute little creatures, which Stickeef definitely is. My main inspiration here was definitely Badoo, who's one of my favorite baby Pokemon. I think Stickeef still feels like it belongs in the same world, but it still stands out as its own thing. And of course, Stickeef's name comes from sticky and leaf. With a little experience, Stickeef evolves into Girleaf, the curling leaf Pokemon. It's a grass and fighting type. The hair on its head is actually a pair of leaves. It uses these to strangle its prey. While Venus flytraps and pitcher plants have mouths in which they eat their prey, sundews are a little bit different. Instead, they have these curly, dewy leaves that curl up when they catch something, like grabbing something in your hand. I like the idea of a Pokemon who may look like a little girl, but is actually quite capable of beating the total crap out of you. Steenie is definitely one of my biggest points of inspiration from this design, but I still aim to make Girly feel sufficiently different. I think I managed to get there with a silhouette more like a gloomy, nerdy sort of girl than a peppy girl. Plus, the silhouette of the sundew spikes really helped the designs of this entire evolution line. And of course, Girleaf's name comes from girly, curl, and leaf. After winning many battles, Growlithe can evolve into Tendrell, the Leaf Trap Pokémon. It's a grass and fighting type. The tendrils on its body are so sticky that escape is nearly impossible. Its lovely aroma causes prey to wander in anyway. My thought was, what can I do to iterate on the concept of a grass-type girl boss Pokémon? What can I do to make it distinctly mine and still feel like a Pokémon? Well, I ended up giving it some lesbian swag. The hairstyle is similar to a side shave, and I thought a big, ominous trench coat-like dress would be a fun silhouette. Maybe in another world she could be a queer-coded Disney villain, but in my world, she could be a valuable member of your team. You can't see the body in this art, but in my head, I'm imagining something similar to the string beanie body that Hatterene has. I remember thinking for a long while that I wasn't sure if I would fulfill this niche in this region, but once I settled on the Sundew, I think the shapes of the plant really pushed me forward into these designs that I'm now pretty happy with. Next up is a regional variant of one of my favorite Pokemon. So, let's meet Enjey Trapinch, the sharp nymph Pokemon. It's a bug type. It lurks in shallow ponds and rivers, chomping anything that moves past it. The Enjey Trapinch line is inspired by dragonflies, which most people would mistake the original Hoenn family for. In actuality, the Hoenn Trapinch line is inspired by antlions, which are a totally different bug altogether. Unlike antlions that live in arid climates, dragonflies thrive in wetlands. Dragonfly larvae can be found in the water, becoming skilled hunters at a very early age. Moving on, let's meet Enjey Vibrava, the vibration Pokemon. It's now a bug and dragon type. Its thin wings and strong muscles allow it to hover for prolonged periods of time. Many people say that Flygon looks more like a bug dragon type than a ground dragon type, and while I'm certainly in the camp that the ground type is appropriate, I still thought it would be fun to do a bug version of them. However, I couldn't resist. I didn't want to be too straightforward with it. I thought it would be funny to make a line that looks like it's supposed to be water type, but is bug instead. So that's why we have this nice blue palette. Vibrava's tail is also more pointed here than its Hoennian form, to resemble the little points on a dragonfly's tail. Dedicated trainers can raise Vibrava into Flygon, the mystic Pokemon. It's still a bug and dragon type. Its eyes are highly developed, allowing it to clearly see prey even after chasing it underwater. We continue with the blue color palette for that pseudo-water-type vibe. While the blue color palette is certainly aquatic in nature, it's also based on actual dragonflies found in New Jersey. Dragonflies are one of the most diversely colored insects I think I've personally ever seen, although it can be hard to tell since they fly so quickly that it can be hard to get a good look at them. There's actually several species around here with iridescent blue bodies. Flygon is seriously one of my favorite Pokemon, and I thought giving it representation through a true dragonfly would be the perfect way to represent it in Enjey. I intend to put a bug-type gym early on in the Enjey region based on the bug museum I work at. And with dragonflies being my boss's favorite, I think I needed a cool, powerful dragonfly to be the representative of the gym. Let's meet another wetlands bird Pokemon. Meet Sockling, the hardbeak Pokemon. It's a pure flying type. Using its beak, it nibbles on unfamiliar objects. Despite its size, it has powerful jaws. Sockling here is a shoebill, a wading bird found in Africa. Sure, maybe shoebills don't live in North America, but hey, I thought these would make for an interesting Pokemon and a cool addition to the wetlands biome. Shoebills are so named for their large bills, which almost resemble clogs or dress shoes. So, since Sockling is a baby, its beak is styled to look like a sock. Shoebills are seriously incredible animals, and I really think they should be more popular. They're just so distinct looking. That gaze, that bill, that funky attitude. They're charming and cool birds that definitely deserve more attention. The name Sockling comes from sock, as in both the article of clothing, but also the slang term sock, meaning to beat someone up. It also adds the suffix ling, much like other baby birds. With some training, you can evolve Sockling into Shoekill, the hard beak Pokemon. It's a flying and fighting type. It stands completely still in the wetlands, waiting for the perfect moment to swallow its prey. In its evolved form, Shoekill is much more aggressive and hardcore than Sockling. Shoebills are known to quietly stand still, almost like a statue, before striking their prey. This behavior felt very fighting type to me. There's this discipline angle to the brutality that felt very fitting. While Shoekill the Pokemon may be a little aggressive, real-life shoebills are actually pretty docile with people. They're a common sight in zoos, so next time you see them, go say hi to your local shoebill. Let's wrap this list up with one of the strangest Pokemon in the Enjey region. Let's meet Second Sight, the Depth Delver Pokemon. It's a psychic type. It helps scientists grade water quality by diving into deep, dirty water. It hypnotizes poison-type Pokémon to lessen pollution. Second Sight is inspired by the Secchi disc, a device used to measure the turbidity, or transparency, of water. This distinct black and white pattern is very easy to see, and the Secchi disc itself is pretty easy to use in my opinion. Simply unwind its cord until you cannot see it anymore. The further down it goes in the water before fading away, the clearer the water is. I took a lot of environmental science classes in high school, and to me, the Secchi disc is something of an icon when it comes to researching our local waterways. It felt like a fun, deep cut for an object Pokémon, and a cool way to introduce others to this interesting tool. The fact that it's a circle on a string helped inspire the hypnotic elements of design and personality, and gave it that extra oomph to go from just a tool to a full character. The name Second Sight comes from Secchi, Insight, and In Sight, meaning it's literally in the site that it's researching. Well, that was a very eventful bunch of Pokémon. The Enjey Wetlands are vast and full of such interesting characters, so let me know which of these guys would make it onto your team. Next time we'll be meeting city Pokémon, who dwell alongside people and are adapted for an urban lifestyle. It'll be a lot of fun to introduce you guys to them. If you would like to support me, consider checking out my Ko-fi page. Over there, I upload art, behind-the-scenes posts, perks for monthly members, and much more. I've also got a shop, and my commissions are open over there, so there's a lot to see over on my Ko-fi page. If you're more interested in physical merchandise, then check out my Palm Street. Over there, I sell things like stickers, charms, pins, original paintings, and more. Sometimes I do live streams too, so if you're interested in hanging out in a stream sometime, go follow me there. And with that, that is all that I've got for you guys today. Thanks so much for your patience. I know it's been a while since my last video. July seriously just got pretty busy on me towards the back half, but I'm glad to be back in the grind for the channel. So, I hope to see you next week with another art video, and in the meantime, why don't you all go out there and make some art.